Hi, everybody. Welcome to my channel. I'm so glad that you found your way here. And I'm not even quite sure what we're going to be speaking about today, to be honest. So I'm just going to let this roll. But I hope you got into your August quite well. August is quite the explosive month. It's a very volatile month. It's already started off with a bang for a lot of people. For me, for sure. For me, for sure. And but I've been hearing from my friends, my acquaintances, my loved ones that are also going into high drive mode, ultra super, like super change mode, going from one to the absolute immediate next. And it's been wild. It's been wild. So I hope you guys are doing well. Let me know how you are doing in the chat. And otherwise, let's start this off by talking about the month of August, even though we're in the middle of the month and almost towards the end of it, anyways. But the energies of this month are pretty, good morning, lucky me, are pretty interesting, right? They're pretty heavy duty. And this is the perfect month for you if you want to change things, if you want to get things going, you want to get things changed, you want to start fresh, you want to. There's a lot of energy and a lot of power in this month that you have to know to harness, that you have to understand for yourself in your own life. What is the best way that I can implement this? Because otherwise, it can go bam. So I was just on the phone and I hope he forgives me. Please forgive me. But I am so surprised. And the only reason I'm saying this is because you guys will never know who I'm talking about. And I'm not telling the full story because that's, of course, private. But it's just this person went through such a radical change, more radical you couldn't imagine. And everything literally in these, well, it culminated into this month, but the entire life of this person has been flipped upside down, has changed. Some of you have read the note that I wrote, the community post that I wrote that I ended my job. Well, when I first got back to Germany, because health insurance here is a thing. It's a thing. It's mandatory. Everybody has to have it. It's absolutely mandatory, but nobody explains how you're going to pay for it. And people always think, it's Germany, right? It's a social state kind of thing. Like health insurance is thrown after you. It's not like in the US. Things have changed. So it's always been a state that has really been catering towards people that are employed. If you are employed, yes, you have easy sailing, smooth rolling because it's automatically deducted from your pay every month. You don't even see it. So you don't feel you're losing anything. You get used to it. But it goes in with the deductions. And especially because you pay only half of it and your employer pays the other half, right? So when we're speaking about health insurance, we're also speaking about all the other things. So employment insurance, old age benefits, that whole thing. Like this is all very intertwined and interconnected here. It's not very, it is separate agencies, but they all, somehow run together. And so when I first got back, I had the issue of my age. I had the issue of being self-employed. I had the issue that I was not going to pay for private health insurance because private health insurance is insane. And as you age, it gets more and more expensive, right? So if you're paying into it from when you're super young, then you can pay more into that so that as you age, your premiums don't go up, right? It kind of stays in a manageable level. But there are enough people that can't afford to pay their health insurance. There are enough people. So something has to give in that direction because it's gotten out of hand. So I wanted to stay in the statutory health insurance. So that's the one that is predominantly for employees, that's pretty much managed, run, even though these are independent companies as well, but they're kind of subject to the state regulations a little bit more. There's not much difference. It's just when you go to the hospital, are you going to be seen by the head doctor or not? Are you going to have an a single room or not? But you can always pay on to that if you really want those additions. So it's it's not really giving anything. But the main difference with the state or that insurance is that the premiums don't go up as you age. They stay pretty much the same. So if the premiums go up, which, occasionally they do, but it's not because of your age, it's because overall everything is going up. So everybody that's a one person self-insured, self-employed person, most of them would want to stay in the state thing. But getting back into it after you've been out of country for a while is tricky. So I went and got a job because that's the easiest thing. In Germany, everything is through your job. Like your employment is everything. It's your social life, it's your status, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're getting paid for a decent job, for a job that contributes to the well-being of everybody else in whichever way, shape, or form, that's recognized. It's not looked down upon at all. So in any case, I went and got a job. And I literally walked in and just talked to the manager, and he said, "This is the reason I'm getting a job." Actually, I don't want a job. I just want this. And I need to get back into the system. And so that was that. And it ended up being a really fun place. Like it felt so like, oh, okay, this is how I can link back in, right? And so I ended up staying way longer than I knew I should have. And of course, when you're in a situation where you need to leave, this is not the place for me, the universe starts showing you that. It starts showing you, look over here, look over here, look over here, and things start happening. Things start just happening. So things were happening and happening and happening. And eventually I thought, you know what, I'm not going to drag this out anymore. This is enough now. Enough. And I considered, what is my life here for? And it was good to do that again because I hadn't worked for anyone else since 2012-ish, 13. And roughly, maybe for a couple months in between that and 2015, maybe 2016-ish, around that. But otherwise, I've been self-employed all the way through. So this was kind of a big step. And I feel so much better now. I feel so much better now. It's just me and spirit, baby. And we're back on it. And I had my convo with spirit. I had my convo with God. And I'm really excited to see what's around the corner and what's coming up and what's new. So that's my story for August. But yes, it was a bang. But again, as I keep saying in a lot of my predictive videos, when these kind of energies in the universe come up, it's like the garbage truck is driving by. Don't hang on to your garbage. Don't hang on to it, right? Throw your garbage onto the trash and let it be taken out, okay? Because otherwise you might just be thrown into the truck with it, right? So in everything in your life that you don't want to have breaks down. So that's what I was doing. And I recognize fully, August. Of course, this all would happen in August, but it's the perfect month for that. And I can now launch into something new. That being said, September, I'll be going to the south of France. As you guys know, that trip is already sold out. I'm super stoked. I can't wait. I'm so excited. We're going to do a tour from roughly Marseille all the way up to Toulouse. And we'll be traveling along the Mary Magdalene pathway. So we're going to be stopping off at various sites and discussing, talking, feeling, doing ceremonies, little things, and exploring and just having fun and seeing what comes up and what happens and what comes through. But we're going to be going to some very potent, magical, mystical, really, really, really high energy sites. And I can't wait. So yeah, we'll definitely also be doing the Rennes-le-Château because that's one of the major sites we have to go see. And so I'm excited, but I'm also excited about 2026. And so if you're interested in traveling with me for 2026, let me know in the comment section. I'll send you the info that I have for now. But there are two options, and it depends on the majority of the group which option we would do. And number one is either we're going to do an Illuminati tour. So that means the beginnings of the Illuminati. The beginnings of the Illuminati were in Germany, right? And this is where it all went down. So there are some sites and towns and all of that that we can explore, and we can connect with the thought process. We connect with the energies of the times. And the second option is a witch tour. Yeah, but this one I'm going to be really careful about because this is a honest witch tour. Okay, maybe the honest witch. So it's mainly intended for those that feel like they have a connection to that time in history. Germany was ground zero for the witch hunts. This country, literally, there were more women put to the stake here than in any other European country at the time. It went into the tens of thousands. I think it were 20,000, 30,000 women that were put to the stake here, compared to, for example, France or Switzerland that had 3,000 to 4,000 women. So there are sites to see here around that topic. And this is also where The Witch's Hammer was written, actually a couple hours away from where I'm living, like 3 hours for a 3 hour drive. And there's a museum there for that. So we can see the original Witch's Hammer, but we can also see they have ledgers. They have ledgers handwritten still from those days, which they've kept in museums with the names of the women that they've burned. So for those of you that feel you had a past life experience like that, this may be very cathartic in releasing that and letting that go. If you have the feeling you have been scapegoated, persecuted in this lifetime, this would be the trip for you, because that's what we're focusing on, is the snuffing out of willpower, the snuffing out of the fire of the will. And so we'd be touring those sites in Germany. So you let me know, Illuminati or the witches, and we will, the majority will be able to determine that. There is a third idea that I also have that I'll be working on, but that's probably going to be 2027. And that is the Poets and Thinkers Tour in Germany, where we go through all the philosophers that contributed to the mind of the Western civilization. And so we would, for example, be going to the beer hall in Munich and checking out their Karl Marx and Engels and how they spoke about communism. We'd be talking about the Second World War and the philosophy that arose there. Munich seems to be ground zero for a lot of stuff. And then, of course, Berlin, and of course, some other places like where Immanuel Kant lived. So we'd be going through that tour, but that's a little bit more involved. And there's some Rhine lore that I want to encapsulate within that, because I love the Rhine, which is the main river here in Germany, one of the main rivers. And oh no, my little lamp went out. Oh, okay, but in any case, that's a sign. I need to move on the topics. I hope you guys are still with me. So in any case, that's the plan for the next couple years. So if you're interested, if this calls to your soul, let me know. Send me an email, send me a WhatsApp. Well, no, send me a Facebook message. Um, yeah, you know the drill. So otherwise, let's circle back to August and the absolutely powerful energies that are flowing through. There's a lot happening, and there was a peace meetup between Putin and Trump the other day. And a lot of people are saying, nothing came out of that. Nothing really happened there. And it was kind of a weird atmosphere, a weird setup. And they just basically showed up to show up, shook hands, and then moved on. So let's have a little peek in what actually went down behind the scenes of this little peace meeting. And the same day, there were multiple attacks that were carried out on Ukraine territory. So let's have a look here. What was this meeting genuinely for? Genuinely for. And let's see, problem, solution, outcome, spread. So we've got everybody's sticking to their, oh my gosh, I haven't done cards in for so long. So like seeing this is like, okay, so yeah, everybody's sticking to their money, right? They're sitting on their money, they're sitting on their position, they're sitting on what they believe to be right, and they're not budging. Literally nothing happened. It was peaceful, Six of Cups, but it was kind of like meh. And they walked away saying the right words, Knight of Cups, but no real action here is taken. The kings are still sitting on their throne. So the cards are saying the same thing. Nothing really happened here. It wasn't even a show of peace or a show of force. Nobody knows what that was. So we'll just let that slide. Let that, as if it didn't happen. To show you guys as well how much the US affects the rest of the world. Not like you don't know, but here's the newspaper. Here's my newspaper. And I live right next, like I live almost on the border to Switzerland, right? So here they're talking about Switzerland. Switzerland is looking for answers. So this is front page news, and it's all about the US toll policies, the new ones, and how Trump apparently, it says, according to this article, is looking for cheaper medical pricing, prices of medicine for America. So he has threatened Swiss pharmaceutical companies with up to 200% added to the tolls for them to lower their prices. And the companies are like, what? This, we don't know. They didn't flat out write in the article that they're saying it makes no sense. But they did say that the companies are somewhat at a loss as to what they're expected to do with that, with the 200% toll. Right now it's about 39%, but let's see here. What are they going to end up doing? What is the outcome of this? Ah, this world, it's like, can you even take this seriously anymore? Can you even take this seriously anymore? Let's see here. We've got the Five of Wands. Yeah, so this is somewhat of a battle of wills. This is definitely a battle of wills, a battle of intention, a battle of, who's right. It looks like, it feels like the Swiss are going to walk out of this. Six of Wands on top. And here we have the Temperance card. It's going to take a minute. It's going to take a while. Things are going to go flow back and forth. Words are going to be said. Delegations are going to be sent, or held. Delegates will be sent. Delegations are going to be held. And it's going to peter out though. Like I don't see 238% being hung onto Switzerland. Like that's just not gonna happen. So there's that. There's that. And as I'm doing the cards, I have to tell you guys another thing for August, the energies of this month. I have another stalker. Yes. So I am very private on my social media because because I've had this situation before. But the people that I've had that have zealously, let's say, supported me in a sense, they were mostly peaceful before, but it was still like somewhat scary experience. But it was more about how much they loved me and cared for me and so on and so forth. But still, there were things that happened that kind of went too far, overstepped some boundaries there, and so on and so forth. So now I have another one, but this one, this one is much, yeah, this one is hostile and definitely seems to want me dead. This is a person who is I feel is hosting multiple entities, who has opened themselves up too quickly to more and more knowledge to gain power in this world and over others and over their lives, and just didn't know how to regulate what they were taking in. So this is a person who did a lot of ceremonies, who did a lot of things like that. and something happened or clicked. Now, things kind of really went south with the Asian, because they're in Asia, with the Asian New Year. And they really switched things up there. And something else came through, and the actual person just stepped back. So now they're switching numbers every couple of weeks and sending me, because every time I block the number, then this is also why I don't do WhatsApp, don't do FaceTime, don't do phone call readings, all these things, and why I also don't have a website yet, but I'm working on that. Right, because in Germany you have to list your phone number and your address, and I'm not doing that. So I'll do without a website for now. And I just don't see why I should pay extra every month for a fake business address if I'm precisely at home, because I don't want an office. So I'll have to see how I work that out. But in any case, this person keeps changing their phone number. So every time I like block it and delete it, he goes and gets a new SIM card and spams me again. And it's all kinds of love messages like, "You're fat." You're fat. And I am the one who knows it all and has been doing this for lifetimes and millennia. And you fatty come and start talking and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's horrible stuff. And so I completely delete it. I don't rate it. I don't get, like, that's just the preview that I saw. And so there's that. Just sharing with you guys. I don't even know why I'm sharing, but I just thought about it. It just came into my mind when I was looking at the cards here. So it's been interesting. August has been quite the interesting energies here. And I have to say, I kind of do attract that kind of obsessive, intense energy, because in my chart, those of you that are on my Patreon, you will have seen my chart. So if you're watching the Saturn series that I'm doing over there, and the Saturn series is on the feminine side of Saturn, the feminine nature of Saturn, how Saturn is actually our initiator rather than our limiter or our tester. And I'll share a little secret with you. I'm going a little bit all over the place, but that's okay. It's a small group here, and you guys can follow. This is like nothing too difficult. But Saturn is our initiator. It's not our limiter. It's not trying to do anything bad to us in that sense. It's trying to create the vision that God had for us. So in any case, let me just switch here to my whiteboard. Yeah, and thank you guys so much for your well wishes. I will totally be fine. I just have to really, this is why, like, you're not going to see me. Other people can, but for whatever reason, oh yeah, my chart, exactly. So in my chart, I've got a Pluto moon in the seventh house, right? So that's already the obsessive mother. And this is in the sign of Virgo. My Pluto's in the sign of Libra, though. So relationships, right? Transformative relationships. I'm in that generation that is to transform the idea of relationships, how we explore, experience relationships, but also the moon in the seventh house, Pluto being right next to it. Depending on the house system that you use, it's Pluto in the seventh house or Pluto in the eighth house. You guys know. So, but what it does is it attracts two vibrational frequencies. So, on the one hand, the seventh house is, of course, your shadow, right? So, what you kind of project into the outer world, what you see in the other that you refuse to see in yourself. So, where am I obsessive? I'm obsessive with principles. I'm obsessive with values. I'm obsessive to the point that it's difficult for other people sometimes, because I'm like, That's not funny. That wasn't a funny joke, you know. That was very mean. I mean, most jokes are mean, right? But I can sometimes get into that kind of space where it's very, very, very black and white for me. So I have to be mindful to always ease up, ease up. Because my thing is about transformation. I believe that because of that Pluto, that's why I believe that. Relationships are transformative, right? When two elements get together and even when they break up, they're still transformed. They're not the same as they were before. And when two people get together or a group gets together and they break up, they're meant to be transformed through that experience. And I find it detrimental that a lot of people nowadays are thinking, if I get into this experience with someone or a group of people, I want to be the same when I leave it. They're not going to change me. This person is not going to change me. What a waste of time. That's exactly what's supposed to happen is that you're transformed, that you're changed. And so I tend to look for deep relationships, transformative relationships, relationships that touch your soul, where the soul is connected. And you guys know how hard it is to find people that want soul connections. Like they talk about it, but what they mean is joyous moments. But those real soul connections, it can get a little tight and uncomfortable, right? So I have to be wary of that. So those are the people that I also tend to pull in, but within that net, right? They're the ones that are super obsessive, that are super destructive, that are toxic, controlling, creepy, that are all those things, right? All those things. And I might have been that in a past life. I don't know. I don't see myself as being that in this life, but who knows, right? Might have been a past life. But in any case, but what it can also pull in are people that are able to transform, that are able to make shifts happen, that are in their own way power players. And so I tend to focus on those kind of people, right? And to not focus on the rest of it. So the minute I notice toxic, controlling, creepy, unbalanced, unstable energies, I'm out. I'm like, gone. I'm like, Pluto just cut this. My Pluto cuts it, destroys it, burns the bridge, and I'm out the door. And now I'm learning to also build the wall, right? So that they don't easily get to me. So, but back to jumping again, jumping back into the Saturnian energies. One of the things that I'm explaining is this chart here in the, or what, not a chart, but this sketch. And this came as a download while I was working on my Saturn videos. And why we shouldn't be, as if we are going the feminine pathway, why we shouldn't be going the male pathway, right? The male initiation pathway, because a lot of the New Age teachings, a lot of that stuff is coming from male initiation pathways, male initiation rites. And the feminine just goes along with it, but it doesn't really do anything for women except limit them even more because that's not our path. That's absolutely not what we're here to do. And so the more you dig into these pathways, the more you realize these were all built out of brotherhoods, exclusive brotherhoods, and that they found ways for themselves to transcend the world, because that's what they're looking for, is to transcend this, to not be attached to it, because they're so attached to it. Their root is in this world. Okay. And so they're looking to transcend the world, the masculine energy. That's what it's here for, to have experiences that bring it out and back to God, if you want to call it that. Whereas the feminine is the downward energy that's coming into the world from God. And that's why I also believe that the The ancient Hebrews used to say that women don't have to go to the temple as much because they're already in connection with God. They're already close to God. That's why God gave them children. But men have to go to the temple to learn how to be close to God. And I believe that now, after doing all this research with Saturn and everything, that we've been kind of misled with a very teeny tiny thing, the woman wasn't taken out of Adam's rib to help Adam or be a helpmate for Adam. The woman was put on earth to be a helpmate for God, to manifest heaven on earth, to create the earth as it is. And we're not here to help men become better men. We're here to help God manifest his vision or its vision or her vision of what life on earth should be. And if you dive into the esoteric texts as well, they keep talking, especially the old Hindu texts like Maya, the illusion, that's feminine. The world is feminine. This illusion is feminine, but also Sophia in Gnosticism. She is actually the clothing of God. She is the radiance of God. She is that through which God appears and is manifest. So, through which God is made visible. And the feminine energy is actually that energy which generates and creates. It's like this outpouring of this material realm, and we're here to shape it and form it. And we can see it in the old indigenous traditions, for example, that believe that to women, the women own the land. For example, in Navajo traditions, and some of you know that I am very, very influenced by that because I have a deep connection to that indigenous direction. But in Navajo traditions, the old way of living was that the women owned the land. They had the house, they had the land, they never moved. It was the men that moved. If the divorces happened or if splits happened, then men left the house and left the land because it wasn't theirs anyways, and either went back home or went somewhere else usually. but but the women own the land. So what ended up happening over time, over millennia, for example, at my friend's place, is that the women, no matter, even if it was really spread far apart, these parcels of land, it was still one family. So a child could run from one house to the next, and they'd only end up being by aunties, like auntie this, auntie that, and grandmother is somewhere. But it was a beautiful concept. Of course, in modern day life, it's not really lived that much clearly, but in ancient times, that's apparently what they predominantly practiced. And it just makes sense, right? Makes sense. So the woman always had a house to raise her kids, and the kids always had a home, and the man could roam if that's what he wanted to do, you know? So let me check the chat and see where you guys are at. Can Pluto ever be balanced, though, seeing as he was passed over? I'm doing, right after the Saturn series, I'll be doing another series on Pluto as the feminine, because there's an imbalance in our concept of the solar system, the planets as a whole. And some astrologers speak to that, not very many though. Very, like the vast majority just run with the herd. So, but Pluto as well is more of a feminine underworld, feminine energy. Could redefine it as Persephone. Um, but Pluto is there to absolutely break down constructs, yes, that are no longer tenable or can't be held. And if we look at the Kabbalah, and I talk about that in the Saturn series on Patreon, the very first Sephiroth, or this first world that the energy passes through that emanates from God, from the divine, is represented by Neptune. So somewhere around Neptune, apparently that's where the higher force or the higher energy actually comes into this realm. And I have to look up what Rudolf Steiner said about that. He spoke about spaces in between spaces, such as the space between Venus and the moon. There's a portal or some kind of a dimensional shift there that allows for other energies to enter into our realm. So we say colloquial, easy to say that, oh, they came from Venus, but it's actually a space that's in between Venus and the moon that allows for a kind of a connection. So I imagine a similar space around Neptune if we're looking at the Kabbalah and we're looking at the tree of life and the beginnings of the tree of life, of how the energy comes from the Ein Sof. So the Ein Sof is the unknowable. That's what we can't label, we can't define, we can't name. It's beyond the void. We have no idea. But somehow the emanation of the divine bounces across the void and starts off in Kether. And that's the first Sephiroth or world or level or frequency that we can actually define and see. And that's represented by Neptune. And so the energies come in through Neptune, then they move through Uranus, and Uranus gives it that electrifying. And this is also why in the Crowley deck, the Fool is connected to Uranus, because that's where it gets that initial spark of consciousness, of life. I don't know, but it is life. And then it moves to Saturn. So Uranus, Neptune, Uranus, and Saturn build this holy trinity. And then underneath there's a void. There's a vast space. And then the rest of the solar system begins. So it's very, very interesting to dig into and dive into and see how what that really implies. But Saturn, Pluto, these are actually feminine energies. And it's interesting because the very first recordings that we know of Saturn is astrological. Saturn is stated to be feminine, and it's only somewhat later that during the Greek time that it started morphing into masculine. And there's a reason for that, because Saturn represents this absolute mature feminine, this image of femininity that we all don't have. Saturn, that powerful feminine, because just like the masculine is powerful, the feminine is equally as powerful, but in a completely different way. And this power of Saturn is non-bribable. It's non-sexual. It's anything that the masculine can do anything with. And like I showed in the diagram, like the energy, the masculine energy flowing upwards, right? It's going to experience Saturn as limiting. But our energy, the feminine, flows to the earth and is here to manifest this realm, is to create this realm. And so Saturn is very supportive for us in that, as women. And we are the ones that create society's rules, for example. Okay, enough about that. That's a lot to take in about Saturn. So, it's you're going to feel that resistance come up in you when you're hearing it, because we all resist the new. We resist we prefer to flow with the tried and true, and prefer to flow with what is already known. But I have download sheets there with all the notes to Saturn, how to read it in a chart. So just try it out and see how the charts open up and how things change for you when you use these new interpretations. Okay. Yeah. So in any case, can Pluto ever be balanced though, seeing as she was passed over? Um, And what I really feel sad about is Pluto is the only one with a heart. It's the only planet with a heart, like literally a heart ice field, and is thrown out of our solar system. Is all of a sudden, it's no longer a planet, and that's sad. That's really sad. But I don't think Pluto is here to be balanced. That's another thing we have to let go of, is this obsession with balance, and everything has to be balanced. That's an old, what is it, Aristotelian concept, right? Of the unmovable God, the unmovable immovable. A lot of our religious and spiritual concepts actually come from these ancient Greek philosophers, and I've done a video on that too. Um, but it comes from that concept of an eternal God must be an immovable God. And God did say, don't make any limitations or definitions of me. And that is a limitation and a definition. So I don't think we need to be worried about balance. That's immediately what came up for me. Immediately what came up, because sometimes the imbalance is what pushes things forward, what propels growth, what makes things happen, what you know, and it's not that imbalance is evil, and that's another concept, and that's really, you'll find those discussions, the difference between the concept and following the concept of good and evil and good and bad, when you dive into, for example, the Ayn Rand discussion forums. And they talk about her work, and one of the big things is, like, there's a difference between good and evil and good and bad. Good and evil is the concept that the slave class uses, right? And good and bad is something that is used more in the ruling class, where bad is not even seen as bad, but as useful. Is this useful or not useful? And evil, though, is something that is a concept that is deep within those that are in the slave classes and have that perspective, view, perception, concept of that. So it's really interesting to dive into, like, all these concepts that we take for granted and we're just hooked into, and we just work with them without realizing how much they still keep us locked into a certain layer of consciousness and a certain frequency. And the more we utilize them or try to form or shape things in the understanding of them. I don't know if I'm expressing that right. Yeah. No, no, not always. Sometimes we can't always be balanced. And sometimes that balance is not just for us in and of ourselves, but in togetherness, right? That balance happens. So we can be unbalanced, but when we have the right person or people, then everything falls into balance as well, like everything just kind of happens. So I don't know if I expressed that right, but I hope I did. Anyhow, that went all over the place. But yes, yes, Pluto in seventh house is definitely no joke. And at home in the eighth house neither. So right on the cusp of the seventh. So it's, yeah, it's interesting, the sorts that wash up on my shores. Ah, yeah, but I have to say it's really interesting that because I was speaking about the fat shaming and how many men tend to do that with women, and how many stories I've heard of that, how much I experienced myself over the years, of course. But it's really fascinating because I would never dream of telling a man or a guy as an insult, as a way to control him, as a way to, denigrate him. You're fat. Like, I would never. And it's mostly coming from the people that have enough to do with their own bodies. That's something that we've all noticed as women, so it's really, really interesting how that's considered okay, that it's so widely practiced. Yeah. Armageddon, as someone who was born in the safe class, I cannot use someone else's idea of polarity to commence my story. Absolutely. I must use the tools I was given. Yes. And you are also allowed to create new tools. You are also allowed to create new concepts to expand the tools that you already have. Yeah. So that's it's awesome. You start speaking truth and the watchers fall off. It's no longer yeah. Yeah. So in any case, if you The pots and the kettles. If you have if you have anything that you want me to look into, let me know. I'm here with my cards. I've kind of chatted myself out. There's not much to say about August beyond what I already said, to be honest with you. I mean, I can now go on and on and on and say in so many different ways that August is a month of volatility and change and utilize it to push yourself forward. But I really don't, I'm not interested in doing that. So you let me know the topics that you want me to look into. Let's see here. Yeah. Fun times, fun times. If you would have told me like 10 years ago, you'd be doing YouTube basically for almost for a living. And this is what you're going to run into. This is what you're going to experience. This is what you're going to see as a result of that. But also, this is how you're going to grow. This is how you're going to develop. This is who you're going to become. This is who you're going to turn into. I wouldn't have understood. Maybe I would have believed it, but I wouldn't have understood. No. So it's been quite the interesting journey. And as much as I want to say, you know, like I'm fed up with YouTube's algorithms and I'm fed up with all the nonsense that YouTube does feed you, as so many creators are now speaking on, making videos on, taking breaks from YouTube because they just can't anymore. At the same time, and this is the universe that we're kind of shifting into. It's not either or, it's and also. At the same time, it has been quite the phenomenal platform. Like a lot of people have done a lot of wild things on here, and it's been great for growth. Yeah. Elena De Leon, can you tell me about Mexico and what the role is playing right now? Mexico. Mexico's interesting, you know, because it's one of those portal countries. I've never like the people that I've met with the no, can I say that? No, I can't say that. I can't say that. But the most interesting spiritual energies that I've encountered are from people that have done work or had work done to them in Bali, Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, that kind of area of Southeast Asia, and Mexico. Oh my goodness. It is such a portal country. And if we could turn that portal for good, it would be incredible. So let's see what's going on with Mexico. But in generally speaking, those are pretty chill people. Like their mindset is very when it comes to global things, it's a sit and wait position. It's a but they're setting themselves up. They're just calmly going about their business, you know, okay. All right, the US doesn't want to do this with us. That's fine. Russia does, China does, you know. We don't care. Got to survive somehow. Um, Mexico, what's the role, please, for Mexico? What is going on? Mexico. Yeah, this is so the first card that came out was the Ten of Wands, and the Ten of Wands, as we know, is burdened, being overburdened with something, carrying the burdens of the past, carrying the burdens of the ancestors, carrying burdens that are not yours. And this can also be the scapegoat card because of that, carrying burdens that are not yours. And this is literally, you know, 10 of Wands. This is what came up. The second card that came up is the Queen of Swords. We know that Mexico currently has a president, a female president, Claudia Sheinbaum. Scheinbaum in German. And she is pretty savvy. She's looking at this burden, as you can see here. She's looking at what Mexico is carrying. And with her sword, I have the feeling she's going to cut off some of it or carve out some of it to make the burden a little bit lighter, because she's recognizing that half of it, we don't even need this. We don't even need this. Why are we fighting for this? There's a massive change coming, Wheel of Fortune, and this is a positive change. I've been seeing a positive change for Mexico for years, and I keep getting disappointed in a sense, kind of. But I still see it. Like, I can't unsee it. It's I don't have the timing. I don't know when it's going to happen, but at some point Mexico is going to be glorious. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be I don't know if it's going to be that high culture again that it was in the past, or that it was claimed to have been in the past. Um but a lot more stable than it is now. Let's put it that way. Okay. So the role that right now it's playing is it's trying to shake off the burdens of its past, of the ancestors. And it might go deeper into that in order to shake it off. So working out its colonial history, writing a lot more on colonial history, putting up a lot more expositions on colonial history, doing a lot more informing the people about the colonial history and the ramifications and the effects of that. That may be something that comes up. And but yeah, really just working through that. The card on the bottom is the Tower card. So this is there, it has to come down before this beautiful golden age goes up, though. So we see the Tower card here, that something is going to happen. We've got the 10 of Wands, we've got the Tower. It's all going to come down. It's all going to come down, and then it will go up again. So it feels like that's, I hope that answered your question, but it very much feels like ancestral karma, ancestral burdens that are still being worked out. That's the main focus, energetic focus right now. It's not really looking to be a global player. It's taking care of its own stuff. Okay. So many shamans in Mexico. Yeah, we don't want to go there. We don't want to go there. No, 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 no. We'll leave that one alone. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Okay. You guys have any other questions? Anything else that we can chat about? I've been rambling now for. And thank you guys so much for the likes. And yeah, but let me know. Don't forget, let me know about or even if you're not sure, if you even if you're thinking I can't do the trip anyways, it's out of my scope. That doesn't matter. Just still write to me or drop in the comment section which one you'd be more interested in. So for the trips that I'm planning for next year and the year after. So the ones next year would be Germany. One would be focusing on the roots and the beginnings of the Illuminati. And we might, if I do the Illuminati tour, then that's probably going to be a 3-country tour. And otherwise, the other trip would be focusing on witches and that era in Germany of the Inquisition, the writing of the witch's hammer, the last witch, that we could visit the tower where the last witch was held. But otherwise, there's a lot of spots to be visited and seen, and a lot of things to still see around that. Yeah, we could definitely do that. So let me know which one is your main interest. And the Poets and Thinkers tour. So yeah, what contributed to the Western mind. And I think that will surprise a lot of people that go on this tour, because they're not quite aware how much or what concepts exactly came from here. So let's see. What about Peter Thiel? Immigration issue. Okay. Yeah, German philosophy. That one would be my personal favorite as well. But the other ones are there's a lot to experience here. And I think I'll probably schedule it around October. So it's right in that time of year. It's right in that, um energy of fall. And you guys, I'll let you off at the Oktoberfest in Munich, and you can shake it all off. Shake it all off, drink it all off, do the conga line all off. Yeah, you can rent a dirndl or lederhosen. Um, okay, Peter Thiel. Let's have a look at this guy. Oh man. Peter Thiel. He is yeah. A lot of people have had a lot to say about Peter Thiel, and that he's a friend of humanity would be a stretch, I think, to say that. That he's looking for solutions. Yes. Do they necessarily include um, solutions that for the majority of humanity? Probably. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know. But let's see here. Peter Thiel, what's the intention? What's the goal? What's the avenue? Intention, goal, avenue taken, outcome. There's a very dominant energy with this guy, like very dominant energy. And this is someone who can bide his time. So on the bottom of the deck, we've got the Temperance card, and he can bide his time. He's planning for long future, long term ahead. These people are, and I've spoken on that in this really old video I did like years and years and years ago, that these people, they plan like decades and decades ahead. You're planning a month ahead, you're planning a year ahead, you're planning for your next vacation, right? 365 days beforehand, and only because you have to book it off of work, right? And, but these people are planning like 20, 30, 40, 50, hundreds of years into the future. And he's one of them. So he's playing the long game. He's looking towards the long goal. He's looking towards the long haul, and he's fully believing that he's going to be around to experience this and live it. This is someone who's been deeply disappointed, deeply hurt. At the bottom of the deck, we've got the Three of Swords. So there's some kind of a broken heart that's been driving him that he hasn't been managed to heal. I want to say he obtained in some way, shape, or form a soul wound at some point, and this was a very long time ago, and he wasn't able to heal it. You guys know how difficult this is to heal soul wounds. I'm not talking about your simple heartbreak, even though simple in air quotes. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the disappointment in humanity that we all have. I'm talking when you feel your soul crack, like it just went that little bit too far and you couldn't do it. Like your soul couldn't contain the energy. And I feel literally as I'm holding this, it's huge what happened to him, because this is a huge angel. Like this is massive. This is something that, on other tarot cards, you have little tiny humans that are walking around here. This one it goes eons, generations, lifetimes. It spans time. And here we have this Three of Swords. So something is not right here, and he hasn't been able to heal that. And this is something that I've also spoken about in older videos of mine, is that the only real healing, right? We can get crutches, we can get band-aids, we can get, hope, we can get, and by the way, we can get clarification, we can get potential opportunities, we can get reasons and explanations. All of that we can get. We can map a chart, we can do all that. But the real healing comes when you experience love, when you experience genuine, authentic love, when you experience the complete opposite of whatever happened to break your soul. And if you don't experience that, and I feel like he hasn't experienced that, of course, he has people that love him, but on the level that he needs to feel it to heal it, not yet. And I wish that for him. I hope that happens for him at some point. But it feels like there's some kind of a real deep core wounding here. Um, the intentions. We've got the Four of Coins. There's some kind of an intention to maintain something, maintain life, but he's coming at it immediately. I saw a zoo, you know, like maintaining Earth like a zoo. And life itself, I can't speak for life, but what I just suddenly got was this impression that, life is always changing and unfolding and shifting and rearranging and doing things on its own, like we don't live with dinosaurs anymore. And we're not even sad about it because it's so long ago that we're not going to be having any groups around dinosaur rights. And that doesn't mean that we need to, that we should not take care of what is here and be see it as sacred life forms and treat it as such. But we also acknowledge that everything comes and goes in cycles. Everything, happens. And this is very controlling, this energy where he literally wants to take control of life itself and thinks nothing of it. Like he has the right to do that. There's this fundamental lack of connection, in realizing that life is conscious too and has intentions and unfolds and expresses itself. We're the art of life, if you will. And there's this desire to control, to maintain, to lock down, to keep a zoo, keep Earth like a zoo. Um, the goal, what's his goal? Five of Cups. I'm telling you, this man he's got some kind of a heavy, heavy grief that he's carrying. The Five of Cups is really a heavy, emotionally heavy card. The grief, the sadness. And I do feel that he is, it's the way he goes about things that is off-putting to a lot of people. Okay. But from what I'm seeing here, he feels a responsibility towards planet Earth or a life on this planet Earth. Now, why you wouldn't invest in helping, right? Corporations completely refurbish so that they are more environmentally aligned. I don't understand why they invest in things like bunkers, flying to Mars, bringing our garbage somewhere else instead of learning how to not, make that at all in the first place and making it easier for the masses. I don't know. But it seems here with these cards like there's a deep, deep soul grief that's happening here. This may also be some kind of a relationship, of course, that is haunting him. Someone who I feel if this is a relationship that's haunting him, this person cut him off. And this was a karmic, but a deep karma. You know what I mean? Like a twin flame, soulmate, that kind of thing. Deep karma cut him off. It was supposed to happen, but they had their reasons clearly, and it had to do with his rigidity, his controlling side, his controlling nature, his yeah, they didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things. That's what I'm picking up here. So that's coming through as well. But there's this deep sadness that I'm picking up. Okay, the outcome for him. This is what he's trying to create is joy and happiness and Ace of Cups, emotional happiness. Okay. So in his own way, he's trying to find balance, but he's going about it in a Knight of Swords way. This is exactly what I mean. Like it's so like the intention and the goal and the vision, yeah, kinda, but his way of doing things has a certain flavor and it's too much. It's really too much. So I don't know. I don't know, you guys. I don't know. See, that's the problem with readings. When you get non-judgmental, when you really are sincerely non-judgmental in your readings and you're just watching the energy, it's kind of eh. It's when you get judgmental that things get spicy and then they're fun and funny and but when you're really just observing things, you're just like meh. Like this guy he's given too much value because of his money. And I spoke about that in the last a couple videos ago. This whole society is obsessed with money, how much you make, and that's your status level. So anybody with a bunch of money is automatically um, worthy of being listened to, worthy of being followed. Like what? That's like the guy who has a lot of, let's say, back in the day, everybody used cowrie shells, right? These tiny little shells to pay and be paid with. So the guy who has a bunch of these shells in his house, he's the one that we're going to be listening to just because he has shells. Like, what are we doing? But that's what we do. So this is meh. This is all Peter Thiel is. He's just got too much money, too much power, and people listen to him because they're opportunistic and they're hoping that if they align with him, then that's somehow going to benefit him. And so he gets waves and waves of consent in a sense, and is able to manifest things that he otherwise wouldn't be able to without that. So that's my nutshell assessment on Peter Thiel. What else do you guys have in here in the question? Uh, the immigration issue that's happening. The immigration issue. Now, a couple of years ago, it was interesting because there are always waves, waves of I wish I could find it again. I'm really sincerely going to try and look for it. But I remember way back when in history class and school, we already had this. And our teachers dug up this old writing, medieval writing in Germany. And it was townspeople complaining about migrant workers. I think it was back in 1400, whatever the heck. And they were complaining about migrant workers moving through their towns. And guess what they were complaining about? They're taking all our jobs. These migrant workers were coming from France and Spain. And I think it was due to the Black Plague or something like that. So everything on the continent was back in the movie. I really have to dig into it again and look that up. I've been digging into a different epoch. So I have to go back and dig into that. But yeah, and so they're women. Our women are being taken. Our jobs are being taken. It was the exact same stuff. Like it never changes and it works. It always works. Every time they use it, it works. And even when we see it being used on other people far away in countries that have nothing to do with us, we still don't realize it when it's happening to us, right? We still don't get it. We don't get the game of division, divide, and conquer. We don't get it. And that's another reason for the poets, the philosophy and poets tour in Germany, because the actual concept of races came from Germany. The way we visualize races today. So when you read like in Nassim Haramein's book, where he writes in what's that called? One of his books, there's a short version of history, something like that. He wrote that prior to not Nassim Haramein, Harari, Yuval Harari, sorry. And he wrote that prior to why I thought Nassim Haramein, I don't know, Yuval Harari. And he wrote that prior to this concept of racism, like the way we see races today, people didn't see race and people don't understand. Like it doesn't go into their mind because they're obsessed with this, especially North Americans. They're obsessed with that because that is their only discerning factor. And this has as much weight as your eye color, your hair color. You're going to look like your parents, right? You're going to look like your ancestors. But all this vanishes within one generation, right? My niece is freckled, light skinned, red haired, right? Because my brother is mixed, his wife is white. It's done. That this that doesn't wash off, that is so defining. It's gone, right? And this dominant gene that overrides all other genes, it's gone to red hair and freckles. She's cute though. She is. She's absolutely adorable. But it's wild how attached we are to the concept. Like, it is so bone deep that to dig it out, it's like turning the world upside down. But the concept originated here with Blumenthal in 1700, whatever the heck. And he traveled to the Caucasus. And to this day, Caucasians, like actual Caucasians, are slightly annoyed because Western whites are not Caucasians. So it's gotten really convoluted. The other day, I don't even know how to explain this. And I don't mean to be. Okay, so I went and got glasses done. Okay. I went and got glasses. And this actually, it wasn't the other day. This was a couple of months ago. I went and got new glasses, sunglasses, and anyways, these are really cute ladies. They are so nice. So in whatever I say now, please do not read too much into it. But they were amazing and we had a blast, and they were so kind and all of that. So whatever. But anyways, they invited me back for a free eye screening because they'd just gotten this brand new AI machine and they wanted to check it out. And so they're like, "You're so sweet. Can you come back and we'll do the screening for free and check your eye health and see what the AI says?" So I'm like, "Sure." So went back and we're looking at the I had to enter in all my info into this machine. And one of the things it asked, of course, was race. And so I was about to put down, it had African, and I was about to click African, and the lady next to me was like, "No, no, no, don't click that. Click Caucasian." I'm like, "Why would I click Caucasian?" Right? And so she's trying to explain to me because I don't know where she got it from. I don't know what they've been teaching people. I don't know. Like, I have to dig into so much since I got back. But she was trying to explain to me that that's a misnomer, right? Like, that's a false identification and that it doesn't actually mean anything. So they put all mixed people, all white people under the Caucasian thing because she was assuming I was mixed and that I wasn't straight Black African. So I shouldn't like put myself under that. I was obviously mixed. I was like, "What is going on?" Like, I'm so confused. So, but in any case, I was like, this topic with people is unbelievable because why would they even put that in the machine as part of the program? Like, why? Do I have a different liver? Do I have different kidneys? I'm telling you, if you are about to, if you need a kidney transplant, liver transplant, heart transplant, you're not going to care what the race of that person is. The only thing you're caring about maybe is blood type, right? And that's it. That's it. Toros, because that's where the dissimilarity ends. And so I don't even know why this is a thing anymore, but it is for political reasons because it works. Because when we go back to 1400, whatever the heck, we've got migrant workers fleeing the Black Plague, and they've got the same thing going on back then as they do in 2025, which is why I sometimes can't really fault Peter Thiel. Like, it's been hundreds of years and people still don't get it. Why they don't get it? Because it's fun. Because that feeling of being on top of somebody else is too valuable to give up. To be willing to give that up, they'd have to be offered something better. And so far, nothing better has come along than being better than somebody else. So that's an immediate self-gratification that is too sweet. It's like a Haribo Gummibärchen. It's like being addicted to sugar. People are not going to give it up, no matter how much you teach them, how much you explain things to them, how much you know. So when we talk about immigration, right? We talk about immigration. We always talk about it isolated in this time period. We don't see the grand migration of peoples that has happened over millennia, like waves of the ocean that are continuous and ongoing and have always been happening since time immemorial. We're all mixed. We all come from the same root family. And it just doesn't sink into people's brains, and people can get up on soapboxes like I'm on a soapbox right now. Thank you, YouTube. But it never ends. There is no real immigration or migration because all these borders are artificial anyways. They're artificial. And what is happening is disgusting because all of it is politically induced. All of it, the famines, the droughts, the lack of resources, the all of it is politically induced on such a large scale. It is mind-boggling on this one planet, this hunk of rock circling an unimportant sun in this unimportant arm of the galaxy. And like I keep saying, this is what we come up with to do. We have nothing better to do. And we all buy into the story and we believe it. We believe this is all true. Like this boundary existed since God put it there. But God didn't put it there. It was drawn on a map with a line and a ruler by some British officers after World War II for most of the countries in the West. And here we are today defending these imaginary things as if they've existed since God knows when. And nothing is really real, but we've been implanted as well with this desire for immovability, and that goes back to the teachings of Aristotle. That goes back to how Greek thoughts influenced Western thought, influenced our concepts and our ideas and our ideologies around value and stability and eternity and what that has to look like. And so we apply those, but again, life keeps telling us, do not make an image of me, do not measure me, do not limit me, do not restrict me, do not do all these things to me. We're supposed to live life, not control it. We're not supposed to measure it. We're not supposed to analyze it. We're supposed to experience it. We're supposed to live it. We're supposed to dive into it. We're supposed to explore it. We're supposed to be changed by it, refined by it, burned by it, come alive again through it. We're supposed to connect with others. We're supposed to disengage, but we're all trying to build that shelter that's going to keep us safe and alive forever and ever and ever and ever. But ultimately, that's not a life that we want to live. So back to immigration. What's happening now with immigration is clearly political. It's absolutely political. Here in Germany, for example, and I'll talk about Germany because I'm here, there have been it's very interesting what's been going on here, because on the one hand, Germans are the most open-minded people that you're going to be running into in a while. They have such a bad reputation, but at least Western Germans, they are some of the most open-minded people and progressive people that you could run into. 1 in 4 Germans now has what we call a migratory background. So when you come to Germany, you're going to feel like you're actually in New York. You're actually in Miami. It's very all colors of the rainbow, all kinds of mixtures. Everybody's speaking German. So when you go to your Chinese restaurant, they'll answer you in German. And, I see sometimes Americans are like, they don't want to be shocked. They want to be like very cosmopolitan, and of course, but the image is so deep through all the Hollywood propaganda, that Germans look like Swedes, but we don't. And so it's yeah. So there's that Germany. Then there's the Germany, of course, and just like America has different levels of existence, you have that America for sure, that progressive America, that forward-looking, very colorful, very, bright. Then you, of course, have those that are holding on to old values that, sometimes you affectionately call them rednecky. And we have them here too. Imagine that. So they want to hold on to their values, their cultures, their what they think is their actual old Germany. But Germany has a very interesting history, which I'm not going to get into here because it's long, it's profound, it's deep. They are actually, well, I'll give you a little tidbit, the extension of the Roman Empire. So the Roman Empire has never fully gone down. We think it has, but it hasn't really. So, but that's another video. And but in any case, there's that faction that of course wants to, you know, maintain what they think Germany is. So their language, the cultures, because there are several cultures here, and so on and so forth. So when it comes to immigration, why I'm saying it's political is because our politicians here will go into other countries, will go to, and we have videos of them and they're in the news, and they will go to Africa, Asia, you name it, and try to recruit people, Indian people, recruit people to come and work in Germany. Study in Germany, work in Germany, come here, come, 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 come. We need you because Germany is also going through a birth crisis and they're trying to buffer what's about to hit us like a loaded train without brakes is this aging population. So now they're all aging and many of them are single. It's no longer like it used to be where you had that family that's going to catch you, right? So they're by themselves, they're aging, they're out of the workforce, and the younger generation isn't there. There is no one there. It's crickets, right? So we need people in Germany. They've done studies, they've showed the numbers. If they kicked out all the immigrants in Germany now that just recently came here, not even the ones that have been here forever, like me, but the ones that recently came here, um, the entire medical health industry here would collapse. It would just collapse. In many clinics, um, only 2 of the people that are employed out of 10 are what you would call, I would call native Germans, right? Everybody else is from all the surrounding countries. There are a lot of people from Poland, Romania, Hungary, a lot of, you know, everywhere people are here. And so then they do that, and the people come and they start working here, and then the elections start. And what happens? They're stealing our jobs. They're stealing our women. They're coming in. Oh my God, this is too many. We can't handle it, can't deal with it, so on and so forth. Or they do shenanigans. Like I remember when my daughter was in school, and this was around what I think Syrian families were supposed to come to Germany. And so they were preparing the people for, you know, there were differing groups that were coming together and trying to prepare. And they were all exciting, you know, the Syrian family is coming. They were going to help the Syrian family adapt to German life. They were going to help them with German, help them with um, agencies, going to agencies, doing all that kind of thing, so on and so forth. And then none of the families came. It was all young men from Libya or the old Palestina refugee camps that had been in refugee camps for like 10, 15 years and actually needed rehabilitation, trauma counseling, and all these other things. So things became really complicated. And when you're watching from the outside, you're thinking, oh my gosh, Germany's gone off the rails and it's such a racist country. It's not. It's not, guys. I wouldn't be living here. It's not. It's just it's so politicized, this topic of immigration, which is a fake topic to begin with, which is an artificially manufactured topic to begin with, that it's incredible. It's incredible. And part of it is also to show the world how valuable you are. It's part of it is also image, you know, look at everybody who wants to come to my country, who wants to live here. And so you want our products, you want what we have to offer, you want to do business with us, you want to engage with us. Trump is really good at doing that for the US. You know, you guys are all on the auction block and you don't really realizing it. But what he's selling to the rest of the world about the US is your purchasing power. He's saying you want to be in the US market because these people have been raised since childhood. When they smell vanilla, they walk into the store and they smell vanilla. They've been raised since childhood. They get into their buying craze and they're going to purchase whatever you got to sell, whether they need it or not, because that is the most consumer rich nation on this planet is the United States of America. Everybody wants to be in that market because people buy. Americans buy. Everybody knows Americans buy. You don't want to really be in the German market is interesting. People buy here too, but they're more scrutinizing about what they buy. French, same thing. It's like you can get overnight wealthy with a lipstick on TikTok in the American market. That's not going to happen in any other market on the world. So maybe China, maybe Japan, but it's a very that's what Trump is doing basically with the US, and what he's his machinations is he's selling you guys. And so it's but that's the nature of the game, right? That's what it's about. So back to immigration, because it's such a huge topic. It's all image managing, marketing. It's a political tactic. And they need people. This is another reason they need people to be identified with their country. They have to have people identified with their country so that people are willing to fight for their country if necessary, invest in their country if necessary, suffer for their country, endure suffering, endure hard times for their country if necessary, because they need a national identity. And the American national identity, for example, has kind of like gone down the drain the last, they had a really strong one up until 1950s, 60s, around there. And then around the Vietnam War, it kind of became unhip to be like pro America. And then it kind of sort of came back in the Reagan era, and then it dipped again. And then it was like, oh, we're a global family. But now you guys are going back to being a nationalist country, but it's taken on a different flavor than we all hoped for or expected again in this lifetime. So we'll see how that pans out, and what humanity actually decides on, how this is going to work out. But that's part of the game, right? That's part of the game. There's this German comedian who is in the US. I forgot his name, dang it. But he did a small skit, I think it's over on TikTok, where he said, I got to the US on my O visa for being hot. The O visa is for super talented people. And so you have to have a couple of business articles. You have to have, I think, 25 people sign that you're amazing or write letters that you're amazing. You have to have these reference letters and so on and so forth. So he got to the US being a model. And so while he was saying that, he was flashing his old modeling pictures in the background with his six-pack abs. And he's saying, it's so bizarre because I got here for being hot. And the people that are coming here to work in the heat, they're being sent back, like stuff like that. So it's he's showing the bizarreness of the situation, and what it's really, really, really about. Another thing that is not sexy yet, but it's on the rise, that is part of the immigration problem as well, is that there is a faction that has power that believes that the white race is dying out. So there's that. That is also playing into it. My gosh. So there's that is another thing why they are willing. For example, when the Ukraine war started, if you guys noticed, I don't know, if you pay attention to things like that, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't have the time to. But Ukraine refugees from the Ukraine worldwide were immediately taken. There were no lines, there were no refugee lines, camps, stalling, none of that. they were immediately taken in. And one of the reasons I think is literally because of that belief that certain people are holding in positions of power, because everybody else from any other country or color is in the holding line, in the camps, in the you know, being pre-screened, all of that. But the Ukrainian refugees, to the point that Germans had a bigger problem at one point with Ukrainian refugees than they had with Africans or with visible minorities, is yeah, they were annoyed. They were really ticked off over here because it was going around the usual. They're getting our apartments. They're getting, because people were encouraged as well to rent their apartments to refugees or give work positions to refugees and so on and so forth. There were incentives for that. So not everything is as it seems in the press or on the surface. And there are in Germany, from what I've seen, heard, experienced, there are a lot more people with a lot more problems with. They have a problem not with the color but with the culture. So if your culture is very, they're afraid of Muslim culture, and that is also a historical issue because you have to understand that Muslims did take over Europe in the Middle Ages. They took up and they left beautiful architecture, throughout Spain and southern France. And they were all the way up to Austria at some point. And so the Europeans are not really too keen on re-experiencing that. So that's something that is deeply, deeply, deeply entrenched, plus the completely different world views on what's important and what's not. And then you do have a certain group. These are not all Muslims. Most Muslims, of course, as any other human being, like the rest of us, just want to live their lives, have fun with their families, do their thing. But there's always that little corner, that takes things a little too far. And so they tried to start calling out a caliphate in Germany. That's what they were calling for. They went on the streets in Berlin, which they are legally allowed to do, to protest and say they want to, they're they want a caliphate in Germany. And so when Germans see this, they're like, we're tired of this, because when we go to those countries, we respect those cultures and we respect that rule and we respect what's expected of us there. So please do the same thing here. And that doesn't seem to be the way it works. So it's very tricky situation. So when you see stuff about Germany falling back into racism, and no, 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 it's all a political game. And just like the immigrants and the refugees, I feel really bad for them because they are political pawns, and they're being used for political ends and purposes. Um, because all of this could just, it could all be different. Russia, for example, and I'm not saying Russia is an angel, so that's not what I'm doing here. I'm sure there is a bigger plan behind this, but factual, what they did do is Russia went in and forgave Africa, all the countries in Africa that owe Russia a debt. They forgave it. Done. It's off the table. Now we can question why Russia did that, but it did it. It did it. Now imagine the Western world doing that and actually honestly investing in, and not in a backwards country and not seeing it like that anymore, but investing in cleaning up the damage that they left through their business practices in these countries. And we would see Wakanda. We would, because Africans are doing it on their own. All those images that you're seeing about, those aluminum huts and all of that. It's I won't say it's BS. There are certain corners like that, but it's like all we would see about the US outside of the US would be Skid Row in Los Angeles. And then we'd be like, oh my God, the US is so horrible and so bad. And it's not like that. Africa has some really beautiful. I thought about it. I thought about Rwanda because Rwanda has been doing amazingly. I know a couple people that have gone there and they are completely like They're over the moon about it, and they think it's really beautiful. And in some parts, they have better internet than we do. They're more modern in a lot of parts and so it's don't believe everything you see in the news. Let me go to the So there's a reason I don't like vanilla. Yeah. Twinkly D. Yes, don't trust it. Do not trust it. Yeah. I tend to think that the reason why division is always promoted is because polarity must be the starting point for the relative equality that is promoted. Yeah, the pendulum swing. And every time this pendulum swings back, they use it. And then it swings back in the other direction. Then they push it back. They use it, push it back in the other direction. And then they use it and it's pushed back in the other direction. We see it so beautifully playing out in the US because the US has in their political system this natural pendulum between the Democrats and the Republicans. So every time the pendulum is swinging back and forth, and each time, oh, these are horrible and these are horrible and they're horrible, it's all the same thing. And people know it by now, but still they play the game because it's fun. It's fun. That's why we're doing what we're doing, even though it causes suffering on some level. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. People see Peter Thiel as absolutely evil or bad, depending on, like I said, which state of position perspective you're coming from. I just think he's a voice with too much weight because of his money, and same thing for Bill Gates. It's too much weight on one person to solve the problems of the planet. It's a we thing, not an I thing, you know. And yeah, yeah. Mm-mm-mm. Alrighty. So is there anything else that you guys want me to ramble on about? It's a profitable game for the politicians, Yessie. It's very profitable. Yes. Yes, yes. Mm. All right. So, you guys, I think I'll close off here. It's already been, oh no, don't get me going on Israel, not on YouTube. No, no, I don't have the clout of Candace Owens. I don't have the backing. I don't have the money for that topic on YouTube. Sorry. I don't have the support. Oh, no comment on the red heifers. No comment. Yeah. They've had them waiting for a couple of years. So, yeah. 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 They rebuilt all they have everything that they needed for the new temple. Yeah. Yep. For Should I? For those of you that don't know what the fourth temple is, that is a sign as well that the Messiah is near for hardcore Judaic believers. And one of the signs, I think I spoke about it in this other video of mine, one of the signs of the coming of the second temple, of the coming of the Messiah, the fourth temple, sorry, and the coming of the Messiah is that all the world would turn on Israel, that everybody would, all the countries would go against them or not be in alignment or agreement with them. They also see the U.S. as because it's prophesied that one of the big countries or nations would be an ally to them, and that's their usefulness, right? But then would turn on them. So they see the U.S. as this useful useful, this frenemy, this useful ally kind of thing. Yeah. It's okay for them to take from the US because it was prophesied that they were supposed to do that, that God was sending the US for them to take from. It's yeah, I did this whole video a couple weeks ago, this whole live on it. So I don't really want to get into it here. But yeah, I wish I could though, but I honestly I don't have the support or the backing. So I have to tread lightly. Yes, the Jewish Messiah. Yes. 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 There's a belief that the earth has to, the same kind of thing with Peter Thiel. This is where it kind of comes together, Armageddon for you. Peter Thiel believes there has to be an apocalypse, and in a sense the Israel does too. They believe there has to be an apocalypse before things get better. Everything has to burn down to the ground. So, yeah. All right, you guys, that's it for today. Thank you for being here on my live with me. I would love to work with you. So, check out my site. My booking link is in the description box below this video. So, go ahead and book your session and book it before September, before mid-September, right? Because I'll be able to dive into all your things until then. And also let me know which trip you'd be most interested in. So the witches, the Illuminati, or, and for those of you that are just joining or just watching the end of this, it's for the trips I have planned for next year. There are three main topics that I'm looking at and for the year after. And one is the witchy history that is here. And this is not Salem witchcraft, happiness, joy, joy, fun, fun, Sabrina, hex, hex. It is like the real ground zero of all of that, the Inquisition. It's all still here. We're going to visit it. And that will be a ground for some profound healing for many of you that feel blocked, stymied, possibly also in your spirituality or your work, or you feel that flame of willpower has gone out, you can't find your voice, on and on and on the list goes, or you've been scapegoated, or. So this is definitely an interesting part of history over here to experience and explore. The other one is the roots of the Illuminati, yeah, and Christian Rosenkreutz and the Rosicrucians and all of that is here as well. So we'd be visiting all those occult places. And the other one is the poets and thinkers. So the roots of the Western mind and the philosophers and philosophies that arose out of Germany, creating the Western mind and possibly also leading to the attempt to, oh, we'll get into that, why certain things happened over here as a result of that. Okay. So let me know in the comments below or send me an email, and I'm looking forward to working with you. Take care. Oh, I knew there was something I forgot. What is it, Thursday? No, Thursday, Friday, I'm doing a meditation. It's really cheap. It's only $29.99. And it's to celebrate my freedom and stepping into a new chapter, right? Breaking off the old, letting the old die, because sometimes we can't step into the new, or we never really feel fresh again. We never really feel renewed again and hopeful again because we've never learned how to let go through a proper death. And so that's Saturn. I've been working a lot with Saturn. And never learned to go to through a proper death and really let something go definitively. And then all your energy returns, comes back. You're stepping into the freshness and the newness. So this is going to be work. You can do it in the bathroom stall at your work. We'll get you out of there, I promise. And focusing on the energies of August to create that new chapter, to tear open a wormhole of evolution, development, growth for yourself. and moving into a new chapter for you. And make that happen. Make that finally come about. Make it happen. You are the Lord of the universe. You just have to really, really join me. Okay, so the link is going to be in the description box of this video. All right, I'll see you there. Bye. And make sure you bring someone with you. Yeah, invite someone. Do something nice. Pay it forward. Take care. Ah.